guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm with Mum. Today we are talking about Crohn's disease, which is something I suffer with. I wanted to do a video on, because I've done lots of videos myself on what life is like with Crohn's, but I haven't spoken about a loved one's perception of somebody having it and how they deal with it. I have some questions as well that my friends and stuff have sent in, but first we'll talk through my journey and how it was also a journey for you and Dad. Okay. What did you think was wrong with me initially? Did you have any ideas? What was your thoughts? Think about it, when I first got poorly.
So when you first got poorly,
what was it like for you?
What was it like for me? Well, it's never easy seeing your children be poorly. And also not knowing what's wrong with them. Initially, when you was first ill, I don't know, maybe I thought it was something like, I knew it wasn't appendicitis, but something like that, something that could be fixed. I never considered for a minute that it would be something that couldn't be fixed.
If you don't know, when I was first poorly, it was mainly just pain. It was agonising pain for 2 weeks, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then it subsided, and then I had a takeaway with my friends, and then it triggered off the diarrhea and stuff like that.
So then when you got that diarrhea, I thought then that maybe you had something like IBS.
If you see Mum looking at it, it's because we've got the dog in the room with us.
In hindsight, we should have done this when Dad was home.
Yeah, we should have done.
Albeit he prefers us, so he probably would have followed us, but there we go. You had really, really bad pain for about 10 days. Lost loads of weight. But then started to turn a corner. He's coming back to me now. Started to turn a corner, and you was okay for about 2 weeks, weren't you?
Yeah.
You was absolutely fine. So we were quite happy that the hospital had diagnosed it correctly as a virus, because you had got better.
Yeah. The week later, we had,
it was like a uni.
It was like a uni sort of, they just had loads of stores for us to go around. None of us looked at any of them, we just went shopping instead. Sensible. But we all went to KFC, because there's a KFC, it's like a leisure park thing. So I had a KFC, and I had 2 of my friends come around that evening, and I remember sitting on the bed and we were chatting, and I just had this feeling, and it kind of travelled from my stomach up to my throat, and it was I had to go to the toilet. Normally if my friends were around, I'd wait to go to for a poo till later, and I couldn't. And then from that moment, it was at school, I had this urge, it was this urge to go to the toilet,
because you'd had diarrhea all weekend, and because of what had happened previously with your tummy pains and stuff, we went to the doctors, and we see and that's when Doctor intimated that he thought you might have an IBD. And from that point on, I became slightly obsessed with needing to know every single tiny little detail about what colitis was. Yeah, because I can remember being quite obsessed about needing to know everything about colitis.
Oh really?
From that day on, yeah, because he'd mentioned it.
When he said, okay, this could be colitis, and I had to do all these tests, how did that make you feel as a parent?
I think at that stage, I just needed to know everything about it. I don't know, I think later on it became more enormous than it was then, because...
Yeah, my symptoms were more mild then, weren't they?
Yeah, I think so. It seemed later on it became bigger.
After that appointment, I'd done the stool sample. Before I'd done the stool sample, I think, because you've got to wait for it to come in the post and stuff like that, I had come home from school, I'd held my poo in all day, and I remember the poo, I was in agony, I was having hot sweats, and the poo was literally, this is gonna be so graphic, but the poo was literally just blood. Because I think I phoned you, because I was really, because Dad weren't home from work, I don't think.
Yeah, you did, I remember.
How was that?
Yeah, so stuff like that's scary. So I do remember you phoning me and saying that you'd just basically pooed blood, and I think on the outside it's kind of all I wanted to do was reassure you, don't worry about it, it'll be fine. And I think in some senses just to try and play it down.
Make it almost normal.
Yeah, yeah. But that's to you. But that's not how I felt.
So how did you feel?
Scared.
For me, I was just concerned it was going to be cancer, I think.
I think that's your initial thought, isn't it? When you, like, if you poo blood, or I'm not that I've ever experienced that, but I do think that's everybody's first thought. That weren't a thing for me. I didn't at any point.
Really?
Yeah, no, I didn't at any point think that that's what it was. But maybe that was because by that point I'd read so much about colitis. I almost felt a little bit like a walking, talking encyclopedia about it, and actually how it impacts people's lives, because ultimately that's what you want to know. Is Erin going to be able to live a normal life having a chronic health condition?
I had another appointment after the stool sample, didn't my GP was pretty like sure that it was an IBD. My results were through the roof.
They were horrendous, but the reading of this particular reading should be 50 something, and Erin's was in the thousands. It was so high. Likewise was like her liver function and stuff like that as well.
And then he put us through on the waiting list, didn't he?
As an urgent case.
Yeah. So then we got told the appointment was going to be in September.
And this is May.
How did that feel as a parent? Like, because I was in like agony every day, putting blood every day. Like, I looked so poorly.
And obviously we had my daughter-in-law's Hendo around this time as well, which was in Prague.
I vlogged like that,
yeah,
didn't I?
You have spoken about it.
In the I'll put because I have a playlist of the videos I've done. So a lot of what we've been talking about, like I'll obviously cut it down and stuff like that, will have been spoken about in there. We'll move on. So the appointment got moved, which was great. I think which gave us a lot of hope, didn't it? Just want to quickly explain that the appointment, initially the urgent appointment was for September, and then it got moved after like a few weeks to I think end of May. Just clear that up because we don't mention that.
I phoned Erin and she was at school, I was at work, and I phoned her and she just burst into tears.
It was amazing, like, because I think the thought of, I don't know, it was just the thought of the process, because the process is quite long anyway of getting a diagnosis.
Yeah,
there's a lot of things that go into it, so it just felt like that we started to get the ball rolling. So I went to see the consultant. So you and Dad come to the appointment, and he said about all the tests I was going to need.
Yeah.
Obviously I had to have a colonoscopy and liver biopsy. We'll fast forward to colonoscopy. What was that like for you? Because it was nerve-wracking for me.
Once we were getting to the point where we were going to get answers, you had a gastro team looking after you, and they gave me so much confidence. You've just always dealt with it with such maturity that actually helps me. So like when you was having your colonoscopy, obviously I took you, but then literally could sit with you while you had some questions, but then that's it, you're gone. I don't know, I felt okay about it, and I think it is because it's kind of a means to an end really, that you were going to get answers, and without it you wouldn't. You have to be quite pragmatic about it, and you are very pragmatic, I think.
Then I went on prednisolone, which is steroids, but I started that exactly after the colonoscopy. I had some not very nice side effects, but they were all manageable. I just sweated a ridiculous amount, ate loads.
I thought that was sweating.
And
you got heartburn as well.
Got really bad heartburn and had just a massive face. So how was that, like, seeing me have them side effects? It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, and I think again it's kind of like, I do think both Erin and I always kind of see the good in things.
Everything.
Yeah. Side effects, sweating a lot, okay, just put on more deodorant, change your clothes more, wash a bit more maybe. Heartburn, just, you know, up the rennies. But I mean, heartburn can be something that you get with Crohn's as well, I think, isn't it? But you did get it worse. But yeah, I think the hardest thing was the moon face. And again, no Erin, you look fine, you look fine darling, or maybe a little bit, but
I actually remember
I see
my
a photo.
face was massive, and I remember saying to
on
you
Instagram, haven't you?
yeah, I remember saying to you my face is huge, and you were like, no, it's barely noticeable. And I was like, you're lying to me. You're just trying to make me feel
But do you know what? When I come across a photo on Erin's Instagram the other day of her moon face, and I actually didn't realise how bad. There's no guarantee any of these medications are going to work. And Erin responded brilliantly to all the medications she's been given. And I think that has to be the overriding thing. Is yes, it comes with some negative side effects.
I'm just jumping in to say that it's going to look a little bit choppy because we go from talking about diagnosis and medication straight to questions, because I did have a segment about my dad and how he coped with it, but actually we can't talk for him, and we made a lot of assumptions, which I think when I'm doing a video like this, I want it to be as truthful and as raw and honest as possible, and making assumptions isn't that. So if Dad decides that, I haven't asked him, but if he decides that this is something that he wants to do, then that's great, we can do that. But obviously it's very personal and it is hard for a parent, so I don't want him to feel pressured into that. So yeah, we'll see. If not, that's fine, it's his own personal journey and he doesn't have to share, but thought I'd just come in to say that. Yeah. Overall, how do you think you both dealt with it?
I don't think you can really ever had any perception how difficult it is for a parent when their child gets poorly and you can't fix them, because that was just my overriding feeling was, as her mum, I should be able to fix her and I can't. That's actually really quite hard to get your head round.
Shall we do questions?
Q&As.
What part of your diagnosis did you find the hardest for both you and your mum? I think for me, the hardest part was my life is never going to be the same again. I think I don't remember what life... I obviously do remember what life was like without Crohn's, but I don't. Like, this is my normal now, but to accept that this is going to be my normal and I'm going to have all these struggles, and my life is, like everyone's, my life is going to be really up and down, but with my health as well, I'm never going to be healthy again. I think that is the thing I found hardest to cope with.
Yeah, and mine's probably similar, to be fair, to know that Erin's got a lifelong incurable condition. We don't know how that's going to impact her life, and I think, you know, when you have children, you have all these hopes and wishes and dreams for them, which can still happen.
It just makes things a little more tricky.
It's just that her life's going to be that little bit more difficult, and I think that's probably the hardest thing.
So did you know much about Crohn's beforehand, and how's your perspective changed? I knew, like I said earlier, I knew pretty much nothing, and people are amazing. Like, honestly, people who have IBD are like the strongest people, or just a chronic illness in general, are the strongest people. And that it's so much more difficult to live with than people think.
So my experience of Crohn's prior to Erin, my sister-in-law had a friend many years ago that had Crohn's, and she was very frail, and I didn't know her that well. It was very, very debilitating for her life.
How has it changed your day-to-day? So I need to take medication every day. Some days are harder than others. Some days I don't feel tired, I feel great. Other days I'm exhausted, I don't have energy to do anything. Yeah, it depends on the day. Some days are more difficult than others. How long did it take for the steroid phase to go down? It depends. Some people it quicker than others. Personally, I think it's taken like 6 months. But for some people it could be years, some people it could be less.
Does it depend? I don't know if you know, does it depend on how long you're on steroids for?
I just want to say I cut out my answer to Mum's question because I don't know factually, so I'm not going to include something that I don't know for certain because I don't want to misinform anybody. How did you cope with people, friends and family not understanding that she can feel okay 1 minute and then next she's gone downhill?
That's quite difficult, but if I'm completely honest, if one of my friend's children had what Erin has, or any other chronic autoimmune disease, I don't think you can get it. I don't think it's something you can understand. You know, I can understand it to a point because I live with Erin and I've gone through that journey with her. You're never going to get it. I know at times Erin has struggled with people not getting it. I try and put myself, and I think Erin does it as well, you try and put yourself in their shoes. They wouldn't get it. If Erin hadn't gone through what Erin's gone through, Erin wouldn't get it.
I think it's difficult, and I think it's more difficult when people are being judgmental about it, saying how they're saying it, or if people are like doing it just purely by accident from making an assumption, then you can't be angry at that. And I think that's something you learn over time.
Do you know what? I think I've tried to learn from that as well. I think everyone can be judgy, everybody can. It's helped me to sort of step back and go, hold on, let's not judge this situation on just what it is, because I can see that with Erin. We've got this situation and it's very easy to judge that Erin's being lazy, or Erin's being this, or she's being over dramatic, or whatever. It's easy to judge that, but there's more behind it.
Do you feel obligated to tell your family every single detail? I'm being questioned constantly about what's happening, even when I can't give an answer.
But I think in the early days, I probably wanted to know every single tiny little detail.
I didn't answer this question well at all, so I'm going to answer it now. I think at the beginning, I did feel like I had to tell my family everything, just because I always wanted to as well, because I was scared of what was going on. And I'd tell my mum everything. I probably at times told her too much because she would panic too much. But then, if she asked me, I felt like I had to tell her. Now, it's more settled. I don't feel like that. It depends where you are in your diagnosis and your medication and your individual journey. But at times, yes, I did feel like I had to. But if they're asking you questions and you don't feel like you want to share, it's your personal journey, it's you. You don't have to share anything if you don't want to, and they should respect that. But in terms of like doctors and stuff like that, I told them as much as I felt they needed to know. I'm very open. But you don't need to go up to people and go, I've got Crohn's disease. Like, I'm not going to, like,
no.
In my life at the minute, everyone in my life is aware of my Crohn's disease. But when I go to university, I'm not going to go up to people I'm sharing my halls with and say, hi, nice to meet you, my name's Erin, I've got Crohn's disease. Like, no. I'm also not going to shake their hand. That was weird. So, the next question is, how do you know who to trust when telling people about your condition, as it's a very personal thing? For me personally, I've been very open about it, which has caused me to get hate and people say nasty things, but that's something that I've chosen to do. Whereas if you don't want to be very open about it, that is absolutely fine. You don't have to share it with the world. Keep it within your close family. And if you've got 1 or 2 friends that you're really close with, keep it in that. I think if it's someone you're spending a lot of time with, it will benefit you telling them, because then they'll be able to help you if you're struggling, or they will understand your symptoms more because they will know it's symptoms. And the last question is, how did you find going back to school after being diagnosed? So my school were really, really good. You had frequent contact with my head of sixth form. All my teachers were aware, and they were really good. They did it in a way so I had access to all the disabled loos, which are normally locked at all times. They told me I could use the staff toilets if I needed privacy, and if I needed any time off school, they were great. It would be a bit different for me in sixth form, because if I didn't have a lesson, I could go home and stuff like that. But they are my school were incredibly good,
really supportive.
And I think that if you were running late because of needing the toilet, or you had to leave early because of needing the toilet, I think yeah, just talk to your teachers.
Your school were incredibly supportive. They were kept really, really informed all of the time. You know, if everyone had an appointment, I'd give them an update. Particularly in the early days, sort of pre-diagnosis. So I think, you know, if you're at school or at work, I think it is quite important to try and engage
informed
with your teachers or your managers.
And I think that is part of the circle. And then my camera died. I literally just finished that sentence by saying I think managers and teachers are part of the main circle that should know, because it will inevitably benefit you. And that's the video. If you have any questions for me and Mum, leave them down below or DM me on Instagram. I'd love to film more with my mum. I think she enjoys it more than she lets on. Enjoys the attention, I think. So yeah, let me know if there's any videos you want to see of me and Mum, and I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.